Mid-season report card grades for the Ohio State football team. Offense yesterday, defense today. Here with me once again from the Off the Ball Network is Jeff Hunt, as him and I will give our grades for the defense of the Ohio State Buckeyes this season. All that and more on today's episode of Locked on Buckeyes.
You are Locked on Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Buckeye fans? Welcome back to another episode of Locked on Buckeyes, part of Locked on Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. We're live once again on YouTube and Twitter, providing our mid-season grades this day, on today, for the Ohio State defense. Here with me once again, he was here yesterday, he's here with us again today, Jeff Hunt from the Off the Ball Network. Jeff, halfway done. How are you feeling? Preliminary thoughts about your grades for the defense.
I'm loving this, man. Let's be honest. We got to do the offense first. That was a much easier grading scale. No offense to the Buckeyes, but I think everybody knows how the season has transpired so far. So, I'll say this was a little tougher, but I keep it real. I keep my grading real. Constructive criticism, Jay. That's all I got to say. Constructive criticism.
I had to change my hat. It's going to be going out last show of the week, and so I had to go from the Ohio State hat that I normally wear to the Nintendo controller on my head. I normally wear this on every show. That's the last show of the week. I saw Jeff put a hat on for this show.
I had to
change up the headwear, man. On. What's that?
I had to put my coaching hat on. We're getting serious now. Since
your coaching hat is on, Jeff, the defense, sometimes it looks ugly.
Here's what it is, and this is, I know nobody feels bad for Buckeyes fans, and I've said this. Jay, I'm 46 years old now. I've watched a lot of Buckeye teams, and the defense has typically been the better of the two squads for the last 30, 35, 40 years, maybe 100 years of Buckeyes football, typically, not lately. So basically it boils down to this: lately. We can never keep the talent in the room. Our defensive backs are always young and very talented, and then they go to the NFL, and then we're always starting over. Linebacker, nobody's real sure what's up with. I don't want to insult anybody, but we haven't had the all-star linebacker, so to speak, for a few years. It's a bit of a mystery, but I also don't question the talent that Ryan Day and before him Urban Meyer brought in. So I'm not going to insult any of these guys in the room. We're looking now. How bad do I feel that Pete Werner is? I believe he had 13 tackles last week for an NFL team, and 2 years ago I said that he shouldn't be on Ohio State. So I'm being honest about maybe I don't understand the talent evaluation at defensive players, but this was a tough one. But overall, the squad is getting better. They're very athletic. They're very fast. They're becoming very hungry, which is awesome. And apparently they're going into the film room and they're learning, and they're being coached, and they're getting better, just like we talked about with Stroud yesterday. So I'm optimistic right now. Let's put it this way.
Optimistic, huh? Good word to use, because Jeff, as you know, you do go first with our grades. First up, defensive ends. You said optimistic.
Okay, so this was a tough one because we're used to at Ohio State. I mean, everybody talks about the run on defensive ends that we have, but we're just talking about defensive ends in general. The leading sacks for the defensive end category, which by now, let's be honest here, by game 6, we're talking about a guy might have 5 or 6 sacks and be in the Heisman race. That's the kind of buzz that we're used to over the last 5 or 6 years. Jack Sawyer, a freshman, has 2 sacks from defensive end. He's not a starter. He's still learning. He's not jumping off the page. I gave the defensive ends a C- because the one area that a quarterback can get Ohio State is to get out of the pocket. Like
Mhm.
we saw last week in Maryland, Tagovailoa, the first thing he did was sprint it out of the pocket. And then that became his pocket. It was a moving pocket. Today's football, that's very common. Not every team we play coming up has that. But I'll just be blunt. I've been very disappointed out of the production from the edge rushers at Ohio State. If at this point you even say we have one. I know there's a lot of inside techniques that they're using. I'm not going to sit here and know what the coach's plan is. I can just say this: quarterbacks, especially like you go back to the Tulsa game, do not fear the edge. They're not looking, they're not worried about what's behind them, and they're not looking what's in front of them. They're just looking downfield, and that worries me. So they got a C minus. I don't know. Then maybe that's too high for the production that we've seen so far.
The production has not been very good at all from that position group, Jeff. I'm going with a C. I wanted to go lower, but I'm trying to be as positive right now as possible. I have not spent much time ranting and venting about this position because I would be doing it for probably 2 shows collectively about as far as how I view this team. Jeff, Zach Harrison, by some, is viewed to be a first-round talent, first-round pick for next year. I haven't seen it yet. You haven't seen it yet. I don't know what anybody else is seeing where they're saying that Zach Harrison is possibly going to be a first-round pick. I don't know if they're just trying to see. I don't know if they're watching Nick Bosa film, Joey Bosa film, and saying, oh, no, that's Zach Harrison. Well, there's a different skin color, but just saying, no, that's Zach Harrison. No, guys, I have not seen it. Jeff gave them a C minus. I'm going to be nice to give them a C. If it wasn't for the youth movement, bro, I might give them a D plus.
I'm with you. And just real quick, I want to say that I thought Jean-Baptiste was very effective last Saturday, and that moved my grade up. He bothered Tagovailoa a lot.
I'm not going over the numbers. I don't need to. You guys know that Jay, I will use numbers sometimes, but my eyes tell me a whole lot more than that stat sheet does. This is a problem. You talk about the inside technique that they've been using, bro, I don't care. There's one thing that I know is that if you're a defensive end, if you go against the grain of what the coach is telling you to do and you do your own thing and you do it well, the coach will be fine with it. These guys are doing all the technique that they want him to do. Great. At some point, somebody showed me you got some dog in you and you can change things up and alter it at that position. I wasn't planning on doing this, Jeff. My blood pressure might be going up. This is annoying to me. Very, very annoying. Tariq Smith, everyone goes back to the Clemson game last year. Okay, great. That's one game at the end of the season. What we haven't seen is consistency. We haven't seen them do their job. And I wonder, Jeff, I don't know where you are, but I wonder if we're seeing a possibility of youngsters overtake the old guys in the starting lineup. Because if you want to find a way to get these guys to check their pride and to man up and to figure out what kind of man they are, let a guy as a true freshman that committed to Ohio State on July 4th, Tuamaloa, I was not JT, I just really found that out. Let Tuamaloa come in and take your spot, Zach Harrison or Tariq Smith. That's a good way to check and figure out what kind of man you are.
Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree what you're saying about the so-called veterans, what they need to do. And I like what Tuamaloa has done for the position he was put in this year. It's obviously there what he can do, Sawyer's, but the thing is, we're judging these guys based on what we need to win a national championship. Jay, you're just like me. I'm not worried about just conference play. I'm not worried about just bowl games. I'm worried about what can our players do against the very, very best in the country. And I don't see, especially defensive ends right now, that will cause any fear in Georgia, will cause any fear in Alabama. Probably not Iowa. Do we want to keep going down the list? I'm glad. I felt I didn't want to come on your show and be too hard on them. So I feel better. I feel better that we went good cop, bad cop on the defensive end. So it's tough love here, but I also realized that I talked about this yesterday. As the weather changes, as things happen, these big, strong guys can have a bigger effect in these games, but it needs to start soon because coaches see it. If you see it and I see it, Jay, coaches see it and they can game plan against that. And you can't give, especially like Michigan State, or Penn State with Clifford, if he's healthy, you can't let these guys sit in the pocket. You have to rattle them. And the problem is, I understand that now we're we're talking about the A gap and we're talking about flushing the quarterback, that's fine. But if there's nobody out there to tackle him, that's a whole different problem. Then you're opening up screen passes. When you don't have defensive ends, you open yourself to screen passes. We saw that in the Oregon game. We saw the edge. There was no edge in the Oregon game. So to piggyback on your vent, you're correct, sir.
Do you have a vent next up is a defensive tackle position? Do you have a vent or a rant or anything positive, or negative may need to get better? Or are you all positive about this spot?
I'm positive on the defensive tackle only because I'm assuming I don't expect pass rushers out of my defensive tackles. If you get pass rush out of a defensive tackle, that's not only a bonus, that's a gift. And last year, those guys saved our behinds. Let's be honest. I actually gave the defensive tackles a B+ because
wow.
I understand. But we also, I'm keeping in mind that like their job is different now when we're talking about, changing the defensive up a little. I think they hold their ground in the middle. I don't blame them totally on the running game because a lot of that has come just outside them. They weren't perfect early, but I do see that, that's the one push we're getting up the middle. And if not for them, if not for our defensive tackles, I don't know like how we stop a team, especially the running game or whatever. The tackling has gotten better. So I went with a B+. So essentially what I'm saying is I'm putting all the blame on the ends, and that now our tackles have had to try and turn into pass rushers, which is a weird thing to do unless you've got Aaron Donald on your team.
I'm going B. And I can't, once again, like there are games that I cannot get out of my head. I can't get the Tulsa game out of my head for certain things. I can't let the first half of the Maryland game for the offensive line get out of my head. I cannot let that Minnesota game, week number 1, where you let Mohamed Ibrahim run all over you. And if he is still in the game, fourth quarter, Minnesota might win the game, Jeff. Yep. I mean, that's how good he was playing. You are 3-4 scores better than Minnesota if you play like you're playing right now against them. I cannot get rid of that game out of my head. And so I'm going B. We talk about the pass rush that we're getting from Haskell Garrett, Tyleik Williams, and the guys up the middle. That's great. I can't escape the run defense that we saw in the first portion of the season. And that's primarily, a lot of the stuff's on them. Jeff, you go B+, D tackles, I go B. Moving along very, very quickly, Jeff. Oh, I didn't mention this one disclaimer earlier. We generally will not get too much follow-up after Jeff or I make a statement, just trying to move along with the show. You see, we can get derailed very quickly.
Because if you let me and Jay go, you're here for a minute.
Yes, you are. And so we're just going to move right along. Probably very little follow-up moving forward. Jeff, the linebacker position, where you at?
Here's what's funny. It's one of my favorite positions on the field. It's changed a little because most of the game, majority of the games, we really only have 2 actual linebackers on the field. Me and Jay had the Hickman discussion before the show started. But so these guys got a different load, on them this year compared to what we've seen in the past.
Oh, really quickly, Jeff. Hickman is a defensive back for this grouping. He's not a linebacker. So for those of you wondering if Hickman is a linebacker or a defensive back or a safety, I view him more of a strong safety.
Yes.
The networks will call him a safety. So he is with the defensive back group for this grading, not linebackers.
Yes, thanks for bringing it up. So essentially, we're basically dealing with 2 linebackers on the field, at all times. I actually gave them a C+, and I know that sounds crazy. They were completely lost. There was too much rotation. Everybody that listens to Jay, he's covered it well. Way too much, rotation. It's starting to look like Day had a plan. I understand, but it was still a lot of rotation. So I gave them a C+. A lot of it's A for effort, and a lot of it's the progression. Steel Chambers looks like a linebacker now, which is amazing from a guy that has switched positions, after so long at running back. They're reacting faster. They're just playing tougher. Like when they're getting to the ball carrier, they're getting him down. They're enthusiastic about it. And I know that sounds like a lot of intangibles, but a linebacker has to be just a bit different. He's got to be able to stick his face mask into plays that nobody else wants to. He's got to react. They're doing a much better job of cluttering up when they get, we've talked about the change in defensive, play callers and all that, but they're doing a better job of clogging up their zone and giving the so-called pass rush more time. A couple more blitzes, not super necessary, but I think every one of these linebackers has gotten better each and every game. So essentially I gave him a C+ because they're trending in the right direction and they just seem like they want to do the job. And I think by the end of the year, Steel Chambers can be an outside shot at becoming an NFL linebacker someday, which is just blows my mind.
Interesting note about Still Chambers. In his recruiting process, I went to 247, their database and their recruiting profile for him. The individual that wrote a scouting profile on Still Chambers in his assessment said he would be a better linebacker at the next level than a running back.
Let's get
Jeremy Birmingham, the recruiting analyst for Letterman Row. He said he told Still Chambers in high school, you'll probably be a better linebacker than running back in college. He is not a bad running back. Let me just get this wrong. Let me get this correct. I don't think he is a bad running back. It's just with this group, he's not going to play running back. So why don't you try and play something better? And if you're better at a different position, go forward and be that. I'm all for it. I like it. Jeff, if I could give a C++, I would do it. I don't want to go B-. I think the beginning of the season was too harsh for me to go B-. I don't want to go C+ because I believe they're playing slightly better than average. So I want to go C++, but since that's not a legit grade, I'll go C+. There are certain my brain, my memory is not the best, but there are certain things that are implanted in my brain, certain plays that are stuck in my brain. You can't eliminate the first 3 games of the season at all. You can't. Now, if we were just giving this off of the first 3 games of the season, bro, I might go D- or F. They've gradually climbed up the ladder. They have gradually gotten better. And I do think that what we have seen from the linebackers right now, from Taraja Mitchell, who's gotten better, and he had a little injury, didn't play. Still Chambers, who continues to be one of the better linebackers on the team. Cody Simon, who has emerged. Tommy Eichenberg has gotten better, and people were mad at him earlier in the season, and I believe he was simply doing what the coach told him to do. Like, we all get mad at players for – I got mad at him too, but I feel like we're getting mad at him for doing what he's told to do, but then he's realizing the coach told me the wrong thing, but it's too late. I can't say definitively he was told right or wrong, but at some point, bro, instincts have to come up. You got to realize the ball's in front of you, not to your left. Go to the ball. I'm going C+. I'm being generous, very generous. I wanted to go lower. We have seen a good path upward for this group right now.
And real quick, let's think about this. I know every player's not great at that position, but we didn't think we'd have any depth at linebacker. We've actually got a little bit of depth, at linebacker, and I don't mind a bit of a rotation now. And if it makes you feel better, Jay, my actual grade for them in my notes is C+, but A for effort. So there's your C++ that you were looking for.
Hey, Jeff, defensive backs, very quickly, where you at?
My guys, I got him at B-. And I feel good about having a B- after all the, like last year, the big plays and everything they gave up. A lot of it's scheme, a lot of it's not knowing where to be. When Proctor went down this year, I'm like, okay, things are going. Jay, me and you tweeted personally, like if anybody knew the conversations that me and Jay have that nobody ever gets to hear, but I thought we were in real trouble. Burke's that dude. He's a star. He's not perfect. He gave up a huge, play the other day that didn't wind up being a touchdown because Tagovailoa overthrew the guy. But I still count those as mistakes. But just overall, they're reacting faster. They're really starting to learn their job. And since we're counting Hickman as a safety, he's really stepped up. He's probably been the biggest difference on the defense. I was rewatching the game today. Williamson, is kind of coming along and making some aggressive plays. That's what I want to see is the get rid of the hesitation and react. Seven Banks is coming around. He played an up and down game Saturday versus Maryland. There was times where I'm like, why is he missing tackles? And there's times where I'm like, okay, he's going to be fine. If we're going to assume that these guys are going to keep getting better, they'll be a scary secondary next year. I know that doesn't count right now, but I gave him a solid B-, and it's the most positive B- I can give. And at this point, compared to what we saw the first 2 games of the season, I'm ecstatic to give him a B- with the offense we have.
Jeff, you're a B minus. Hickman lifts the grade up to a B. If he was to the linebackers, I would give them a B minus because he's been that good so far this year, playing a new position, which is not normal. But I said a B, right?
Yeah, you said
okay.
B.
Okay, that's the only reason, because of Ronnie Hickman. Because I think one downfall for this group is that a positive, injuries are what led to Denzel Burke starting at the game number 1. He hasn't let up. So I got to give that a positive. Unfortunate situation. He was thrusted to due to an injury, but he did show everybody he is that guy. He is a dog on this team. So be it. I think the coaches did this group specifically. Now, they did the same thing to the linebackers, but I think they did this group a disservice by playing so many guys. If you want to play Josh Proctor, great, but why is Bryson Shaw in the game when Josh Proctor is healthy? If you want to play Roddy Hickman, great. Okay, cool, but why keep him in there? If you want to play Lathan Ransom, great, but why are you rotating guys in? I get you got Cam Brown, Cam Martinez, you got Marcus Williamson, Marcus Hooker, who has not played all season. I don't know if he's just lost his spot, if he's unhealthy. I don't know. But we have all these guys here that are really, really good, but you're playing so many guys. I think you knew, and we kind of knew the hierarchy or what the depth chart might look like. But right now, we just don't know. I think we should know. I think we know, but I think we'll still see down the road a little bit too much shuffling around. That hurt this group.
Yeah,
big time.
Oh yeah, yeah. I totally agree. I just want to just piggyback on that. You talked about a show we watched. The live show you did a couple days ago. You talked about Coombs and everything that went down. And so I'm not going to punish these players for it, but I don't think the coaching staff handled, just like you said, especially the back 7 or 8, however many players you want to include in pass defense. I don't think they handled it that well. And you're right. It's essentially kind of like a basketball player. You got to get out there. You got to get a feel for the game. You got to get a feel for who you're guarding. You got to build defensive backs. I was a defensive back. Not that I was ever at this level, but I'm saying there's this weird relationship when you're out there on the edge with the wide receiver, and by the end of the game, you two have a relationship and you got to build that up and you all these things. So just to touch on that, you're completely right. I put a lot of that on the coaches and unpreparedness going into the season, but I think the kids have reacted very well. And I'm cautiously optimistic that they can do enough. That's what I'm hoping for right now. Just if they can just do enough.
Quick thoughts from you very quickly. Got a couple minutes left. How gutsy of a move was it from Ryan Day to remove the defensive play calling duties from Kerry Combs, to give it to a guy in Matt Barnes who hadn't done it previously? Neither did Kerry Coombs. How gutsy of a move was that from him early on in the season?
No, it's completely. If I could give, I've got a head coach. I grade him every week. I give him an A for the year, and I know it sounds crazy because what we want to do is blame everything on the field. But for him to recognize, for him to take, I said it. I commented on your show or on your Twitter too, that for him to take a guy that's making, one of the highest paid coaches in the country and be like, you're not getting it done. I'm not letting, I'm not going down with you. You know what I mean? This isn't a ride or die situation. You're getting paid to do a job. You're not doing it well enough. Let's see what somebody else can do. For Day to do that, and it never looks like a panic move. He never looks like he's out of control of this team. And everybody listening to this well, that sounds like an Ohio State guy. I don't know what to tell you. So far, the guy's checked every box. He recognizes mistakes just like we do. He's hard on his team. And then he tries to fix it. The team has gotten better. The decision he made was correct. I was watching the other day, and Ohio State's simply just running a zone defense. And I'm like, yeah, it's not that hard. When you've got athletes, sometimes you just got to okay, let's just figure this out. For the record, the 2014 Buckeyes ran quarters almost every game. They were one of the best defenses in the country.
I hated that.
I know. Everybody, they're like, why are they always in prevent defense? That's what we always said as Buckeye fans, right? But without defensive ends and you keep beating your head against the wall going man to man, you're really punishing these defensive backs who now they got to guard for 4.5 seconds. That's, I'll stand by that until proven otherwise. I really think if you put Chase Young on this team, the defensive backs don't look as bad. So I love everything Ryan Days did so far. I love that call that he recognized it and he did it. He did overreact. It's worked. It feels like this is Ryan Day's team. And I think the athletes have responded to it as well. So as of now, by the way, as a bonus grade, head coach, I give him an A at this point. It's not an easy job.
Jeff, I think one of the things that we're going to close up with this is that Ryan Day did not fire Kerry Coombs. I think people are calling for his head last year. And in a time, in a period where people are, and myself included, I'm not exempt from this, very quick to pounce on people and to remove them from a spot. Instead of removing him, how about we just alter your responsibilities?
Yep.
And the defense and the team has looked a whole lot better and tuned. Now there was some players leaving the team as well that led to, I think, the team's being a better unit now than maybe they were previously. But he didn't cancel. He didn't get rid of him. He didn't say anything. Just alter your responsibility. You're a vital part of this team. Let's rock with you. I think that's a very big part. We could be right. We could be wrong. But we're just learning, and we're just viewing this how we see it. I think that it's a great thing that Ryan Day did that.
Yep, some coaches are better from the press box. It's just an
Yes.
eyeball situation. Some are better on the field. Some are better in the press box. As long as it works, who cares? As long as they coordinate and they talk to each other and cooperate and everything's cool. That's what coaching is. That's really happy with how he's handled this season so far.
Jeff, very happy with how he's handled the season. Thank you for coming in and really helping us get through these grades for the offense and defense over the past couple of days. If you could, let everyone know where they can catch you on Twitter and also all the good stuff you're doing for the Off the Ball Network.
Hey, I'm Jeff Hunt at JHunt006. First of all, I love being on the show. Jay's one of the best. I'm proud that he's our Buckeye spokesman, so to speak. I listen to the show every morning. Second of all, you can find me at Jeff Needs Sports wherever you listen to your podcast. You can find me at the Off the Ball Network. I put out power rankings for the NFL every week. I put out college football playoff rankings every week. They aggravate everybody. They make everybody come after me with the torches and pitchforks, and I love it. So get at me at JHunt006 on Twitter and Off the Ball Network.
Guys, you can follow me on Twitter if you're not already at JStevens07. Those of you that are watching via YouTube or Twitter, you see the Twitter handle right there in the graphic. In the meantime, Buckeyes are off this week. But let's enjoy a weekend of football, a fun-filled college football Saturday with us, Big Ten football, SEC football, college football. You got to love it. And make sure in the meantime, you stay tuned to the Locked On Big Ten podcast because there's simply no better place to stay up to date with the Big Ten football conference than with the Locked On Big Ten podcast and its host, Mr. Nate Dickinson. Follow the Locked On Big Ten podcast on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your fine podcast.